Grab the duct tape and mentally prepare yourself for yet another mind-expanding knowledge bomb from America's #1 business coach, Clay Clark.
That's it. Bombs away.
Yes, and yes, Thrive Nation, it is a very incredible day because Steve Currington is on the way. Steve, how are you, sir?
What's happening?
Steve, I was doing some paperwork this weekend.
Yep.
And so I had Facebook Live on so that way I could listen to what you and Aaron Antis were doing in California in conjunction with Pastor Brian Gibson and the organization Peaceably Gather.
Yes.
Now, for people who out there who are not familiar with Peaceably Gather is a website that Pastor Brian Gibson and I, in conjunction with Matthew Faraci, started. And basically,
met Matthew on Saturday, by the way.
You
Great
did?
dude. Yeah.
Was he there?
He wasn't there, but he was at the Guts when we went before we left.
Matthew Faraci went to Guts?
Yeah, he was. Well, he was there on Saturday after the conference.
Oh, great!
When we went by for that meeting, he was there. I got to meet him.
That's great. He's a great guy.
Yeah,
great
super,
guy.
super nice guy.
And Matthew Faraci is a public relations expert. He's a guy who I've gotten to be good friends with, and he's a man I convinced to move to Oklahoma. So there we go. Yeah. But Faraci and I and Pastor Brian, we launched this site called peaceablygather.com because it is abundantly clear what's going on. I mean, what's going on factually is that pastors are not allowed to host their church services, and they're being told that if they host a church service, their utilities will be turned off, they'll be fined, they'll be put in prison. Whereas if you want to go out and riot or protest in Portland, as they've been doing now for 90 straight days, nothing happens.
Yep.
And so we know what's going on. We know it's a systemic attempt to fundamentally alter and change the course of history and remove the church from a place of prominence, to ban the church. It is massive, wide-scale religious persecution.
Yeah.
And any of us could, we could visit peaceablygather.com and we could see Pastor Brian on the TV and we could, go, oh, wow, God, that's not good. I mean, we could all do that. I mean, everybody could do that. We could all say, man, it's unfortunate these churches are going through so much persecution. We could all do that. But you, Steve, and Aaron Antis and Brian Gibson decided to do something a little bit crazy this weekend, or a little bit unique, a little bit action-oriented. You decided to get involved.
Yeah.
Explain to us what you did and where you went this past weekend.
Well, I went to a meeting with Aaron that was kind of in like the green room over there at Guts Church, which, by the way, we've been going. I didn't get to go this last Sunday because we're gone, but and I met Matthew Faraci and I met some other guys, and they were talking about this church that's in Thousand Oaks, California, which is just north of LA, probably.
Yep.
Like something like 30 miles or something, probably from LAX. So it's a church called Godspeak Calvary Chapel, and they were basically, the county had taken them to court and put an injunction that said that they can't hold church,
right? Because
they were violating or putting people's lives in danger because they weren't following the proper protocol with masks or whatever the case was. So, but at the end of the day, just like you said, if they were having a protest, it would be perfectly fine. But since they're having church, they were trying to shut them down. So the pastor, that happened on Friday, that they lost their case. And so the pastor came out immediately and said, we're going to have church anyway. And so we heard about this on Saturday, and Aaron said, I think I'm going to go. I'm like, I want to go. So I think we drove over there at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock.
You drove to the airport?
We drove to Guts, met for about an hour and a half.
Got it, to Guts
Church. And then when we left Guts at like 1:30,
yep,
we were already like booking our flights.
And then you went from Tulsa
from Tulsa to LA.
To LA.
And then we did that on Saturday.
Yep.
So we got there like at 11 o'clock at night on Saturday.
You guys stayed in a hotel?
I actually stayed. Sally's sister lives in Camarillo, which is literally,
I love Camarillo,
5 miles.
I've spoken at that library.
Oh, have you?
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. I got to speak of it.
So it's 5 miles from Thousand Oaks. I mean, it was literally like right there. So we stayed with Sally's sister, and then we went over Sunday morning because they had a church service that started at 7 a.m.
And the church you went to was called Godspeak Calvary Chapel.
Yep.
And I'm going to play just a little bit of audio. This is your Facebook live feed from the event. And I tell you what, I was cheering with everything within me. I was like, yes, Steve, come on, because your name, you were named after Stephen.
Yes.
Tell the folks out there, who was Stephen in the Bible? Because I think people out there, they don't maybe understand your personality type. But what we're talking about today is how to become a catalyst, how to live an action-focused life worth writing about. You know, I mean, the question I would have for you today listening is, are you tired of sitting on the sidelines of life, just watching it quickly pass you by? You have to be engaged. You can't just go to work, go home.
Yeah.
Go to work, go home. You can't just be asleep. You got to wake up, man.
Yeah.
Because we only have this very limited period of time on the planet, and every day God gives you a gift called today. But what you do with that day is your gift to God. I repeat, every day God gives you a gift called life, and what you do with that gift is what you do with that day is a gift to God. So,
Yep.
Steve.
Well, I looked this up this weekend because I'm a preacher's kid, so like my brother Sam is Samuel Barnabas.
Yep.
You know, my sister is Patricia. My other sister is Deborah. My younger brother is Timothy. We are all named after people in the Bible. And, I don't know, like I knew I was named after Stephen in the Bible that was stoned. I mean, that's kind of the extent of it, but I've never really
Stoned, not like Cheech and Chong stoned.
No, like they stoned him to death, like he got killed.
Why?
Well, and that's what I was going to tell you.
Sure.
So I looked it up while I was in church service and I was listening to this pastor's message on Sunday. And so this is what it says. I was named after Saint Stephen, which was one of the first deacons of the Christian church. He was the first Christian martyr. He's believed to have been a Greek Jew who converted to Christianity. When the number of disciples increased, there was much confusion over the distribution of alms and the serving of the poor. Stephen's trustworthy character marked him out, and he was chosen as one of the 7 deacons who would perform this task. It says he was an excellent, well-trusted orator. His preaching style was so effective that many Jews became worried about his success. They accused him of blasphemy, and he was made to stand trial. And so at the Supreme Jewish Law Court, the Sanhedrin, Stephen recounted the many mercies that God had given the children of Israel and the ungrateful way in which they had repaid him. He accused them of murdering Jesus, whose coming, he said, had been foretold by Moses. This angered the crowd, and he was dragged out onto the streets. He was then stoned to death according to the law at the time, an event witnessed by St. Paul. It's believed he died around the year 34 CE.
How old was he?
I don't know how it doesn't. I don't know how I'll have to wiki that how old he was when he died. But yeah, so it's kind of pretty powerful because I'm sitting in this church and I'm kind of thinking, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I go to church and I believe in God and whatever.
He died when he was 36.
Okay.
And
so, but it's one thing to say like, oh yeah, but this pastor and all these people that were going to this church were literally facing, being arrested or fined or tickets. And if you think about it, Aaron and I were talking about this. There's people that, and I'm not digging on anybody that this is. This is representative of how life is, okay? Yeah. There's people that don't want any trouble. You know what I mean? They don't want any trouble.
Well, Aristotle said the only way to avoid criticism is to say nothing, do nothing,
and be nothing.
Yeah.
So there's people that probably go to this church that are afraid to go to the church because they don't want to get a ticket. They don't want to get arrested. They don't want to be on the news. They don't want that. And then there's the people like this pastor that stood up, and I loved his opening line is he said, like, we'll have to go back and watch the video, but he said, like, let's worship. And he said, now we are officially in violation of the ordinance and of what we were sued for. So because he could have said, welcome to the protest. He could have said, thanks for joining our protest, because that would have been legal for him to do. But he said, let's worship, and now we're officially in violation. And I said, we went there to be a part of it, to support him, right?
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, Aaron, that place has never been as packed
ever
as it was in 3 services. In fact, we were going to go to we went to the 9 o'clock. We got there at
9 o'clock.
8 something.
Yeah.
And it was already packed. And then we didn't go to the 11, or that we stayed there for the 11, but we didn't go in because we wanted there to be seating for other people that wanted to come. But it was literally, they had the main sanctuary. They had an extended area of chairs, and then they had a secondary sanctuary that were all completely packed and people all the way through the halls. So it was pretty awesome. And I emailed you the link to the YouTube video. If you Google God Speak
Well, I thought we would do
chapel.
real quick because I want to play your kind of narrative, your sideline reporting of your Facebook Live feed of being there.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to actually play some of the sermon for our listeners, and we'll kind of break it down. It'll be like John Madden is breaking down. Steve, you could be like the John Madden of the service. We'll play part of it. We'll stop. We'll kind of break it down. So let me keep this audio first here. This is you there in Thousand Oaks, California, at the God's Speak Church. Here we go.
Hold on. I just said they tried to shut this church down. I don't think it worked. I don't think it was effective. There's even more protesters that showed up for church this week. They got some Jesus. I'm here with this famous guy.
We got these guys. What's going on right there?
Hey.
Now, were there other pastors who attended from other places, or is
Yeah, there were two guys that came from Indiana.
Yeah.
That were there. There was another guy that came from the one that you saw in the video. There was from Orange County. He lived in Newport Beach, and he's the one that runs what they call Church United, which is like 1,800 pastors across the state of California. Super nice guy. There was two other pastors, like I said, that flew in from Indiana. We probably had. We had like breakfast, lunch, and dinner with these pastors. There was like a core of like 6 of them that came from all over the country that we knew about.
Now, I want to tell you something else. Are you familiar with what Sean Foyt's doing?
No.
I'm telling you, dude, you got it. You got it. You definitely need to go do this. You're going to love this. Sean Foyt, we just had him on the show. Sean has decided that anywhere you're not supposed to have praise and worship, that's where he's going to host praise and worship. Like anywhere you cannot worship, that's where he's going to go host praise and worship. Look at this stuff. This is and they're just getting.
It's like a rock concert of Jesus.
Look at this. Just thousands of people are showing up from coast to coast. Look at this, like Woodstock. And Pastor Franklin Graham is now talking about this guy. And we had him on the show, and Dr. Zellner is a very good friend of him. And this guy is just sharing the truth everywhere. I mean, he is bringing this, the praise and worship message. He's bringing this now to where the Antifa hot zones are.
Yeah.
I mean, this is great stuff. But on today's show, again, we're talking about how to become a catalyst.
Yeah.
Well, what is a catalyst? Before we listen to this sermon, what is a catalyst? Steve, when you decided to leave the debt collection industry, what motivated you to do that?
They fired me.
Okay, so that's some strong motivation.
Yeah, I got fired.
But I know a lot of people that when they get fired, they just sort of sit around, they collect unemployment for a few months, right?
Yep.
And then they go get a job that they settle for something.
Yeah.
Because if they were to apply for something bigger than that, they might get rejected.
Right.
But you decided, no. I'm going to do something bigger than that. So you went from how much money were you making when you were collecting debt before you got fired?
My last year, I made $149 was my W-2. I was 24, I think.
$129,000. $149,000 for the whole year.
Yep.
Now, when you went into the mortgage industry after being fired, how much money did you make the next year?
I made $13,000.
Which is less if you do the math. It's just a
actually
little
a
if
little
you
bit
just
less.
do a math.
Now that I think about it, it's quite a bit less.
It's quite a bit less than you were making.
Yeah, I made it was really tough, actually.
But now, is it actually mathematically possible for you? Could you see it happening in the next month or two that you might earn more in a month than you used to earn in a year? Is that possible? Could it be close?
Yeah, easy. Yeah, that's my goal anyway. I mean, my goal is to earn $150 a month instead of $150 a year. Because if I can do $150 a month, one thing I learned on Saturday, I haven't even said anything about this to anyone. So I guess I'll just air it out on the air here. The guys that we were hanging out with Saturday with Pastor Brian, I don't know what this one guy's name was, but I think him and Aaron are in some contest to see who can give the most. Like, I don't know all the details of it. I just know there was like a challenge or something. And like whoever doesn't give the most has to like buy dinner at this like annual dinner with all these people. And so they're like in a contest to give. And when I was hanging out with Dr. Green a lot, Dr. Steve Green, if you're out there listening, he's now the head honcho over at Charisma Magazine out of Florida. My biggest mentor and best friend in the world, and my pastor, told me, if you can just imagine, put your arms in the air, Clay, and outstretched, and if you can just kind of be a funnel where God knows that if he blesses you, that you bless other people, then you'll get more blessings, right? And so I kind of focused on that a little bit more. After I heard that on Saturday, I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are like in a contest to see how much money they can give. And there's a couple of them that have been audited by the IRS a few times, and the only thing they wanted to see was their giving. They wanted to know, because their charitable contributions. Because I guess some people will set up like a nonprofit and they'll give a lot of money to it, but it's really funneled kind of back to them through like a family or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was pretty cool that these guys are in a contest to give. So my thing is I want to earn more so I can give more. I
want everyone to listen to the lyrics of this. This is Kanye West, and he's talking about what you're talking about. He's talking about how it's you got to kind of stretch.
Yeah.
You got to push yourself. You got to stretch. You can't be this life. If your goal is to offend nobody and to never put yourself in a place where you are physically stretching beyond your capacity, you're going to become nothing.
Yeah.
And just listen to the lyrics real quick here. Here we go. Let's skip ahead real quick here. Skip ahead here.
The only power that can save this world today.
Now think about what Kanye West is doing for a second. He is hosting a praise and worship service.
Yeah.
I'm sure that doesn't go over well with those who like gangster rap.
Right.
I mean, think about this. Listen to the words here.
Beautiful morning, you're the sun of my morning day.
And he's renting out the whole of the Los Angeles Lakers
Beautiful morning,
to host a concert.
sun of my morning day.
I feel like this has to not go over well with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. If you're a gangster rapper, Steve, you used to do the whole gangster rap music thing.
Yep.
What kind of music is that? How would you describe that?
Sometimes we call him.
I don't know, like the kind of music you don't want to have your mom hear that you're listening to.
So now he says he feels liberated. Well, but
I think to step out a little bit of the maybe this isn't looked at as so Christian, but I think he kind of got to the point where he has FU money. You know what I mean? And he's like, F you. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to believe how I want to believe.
But I think everybody out there has FU money. It's called knowing you're going to be dead soon.
Yeah.
I mean, when you know you're going to be dead soon,
well, but I think
it's easier to make the big decisions, in my opinion.
I get it. I think just there's a lot of people that are just don't, like you said, they don't want to offend anyone. They don't want to, that's why I think this whole thing that's happening right now with the election and what's coming up in November is they say the silent majority, and it's like a real thing because there's a whole bunch of people that will never raise their hand or their voice or make a comment or share anything or do anything for Trump or for the Republican Party or anything, but they will go vote quietly on November 4th. And so I think hopefully because of what's happened and what's happening currently, and I think based on what we learned this weekend, it's not going to get easier. It's going to get worse in the next couple months before that happens. And I think that hopefully there is kind of like an awakening, so to speak, where people realize that, people that say like, oh, my vote doesn't matter. It's just one vote.
Yeah.
Those are the people that we got to get out and vote because we've got all these knuckleheads that have been elected into office that are just.
And usually crazy people. We've all been bowling with the guy who just doesn't care.
Yeah.
And the crazy people usually you'll be getting your bowling ball because you're just, you want about an 8-pound ball. And the crazy guy will say, hey, dude, don't touch my ball. That's the crazy guy.
Yeah.
The crazy guy will cut you off in traffic and give you the finger.
Yeah.
The crazy guy will break into your house and steal the stuff.
Yep.
And we're coming down to, are you going to be weak or are you going to be strong? And I'm just going to tell you this, folks. Again, today's show we're teaching how to become a catalyst. And if your goal is to offend nobody, you will become nothing. So I want to give you some practical action steps. One, Steve, you got to write down the worst case scenario. You want to write down what's the worst thing that could happen. Don't you have to write down the worst case scenario? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you went and hopped into the mortgage industry, the worst case scenario is what?
Bankruptcy.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
But like, think about the worst case scenario on the other side.
Death.
Having like a weak job that you don't like.
Yeah.
Going to California. Worst case scenario, get arrested.
Right.
Best case scenario, helping liberate, helping stand strong with, helping encourage our pastor. I mean, how encouraging was it for him when a bunch of people from Tulsa, Oklahoma, show up to cheer for him? So I'm going to hit play on this sermon. You can kind of tell me when to skip ahead, that kind of thing. Here we go. So this is a God Speak Church.
Wait.
Here we go.
56.
So it was his birthday on Monday.
Oh, really? Okay. Is that his wife?
I don't know. They did not meet.
Okay.
28th? Yeah, second anniversary of my 28th birthday. I look pretty good. For an 80-year-old. No. Okay, so
I think this is where he says.
Let's get into the Word because that's why we came. And if you have a Bible, open up to Acts chapter 8. Acts chapter 8. I wanted to say thank you to all of you. There are a number of folks visiting from all over the country, actually.
That was you, Steve.
Yeah.
And Aaron.
He made eye
One
contact
church
with me
showed
right
up
then.
and said, we don't need to sit in on the service. Apparently, they've heard me preach before, but they said, we don't need to sit in on the service. We're just going to stay outside so that we can be the ones to take the citation so all of you are free to worship.
There it is.
That was pretty powerful.
Very powerful.
And they were walking around the outside of the building with American
It's hard
flags.
to continue when
circling
you
it.
realize that. All of you, thank you so much. We didn't set out to do this. I signed up to be a pastor of a church 20 years ago. I love this community. I ran for office. And if people think I'm doing it for notoriety, I gave up that office. God is everything to me. And the mic's a little hot. If you can turn it down, it's kind of, I'm worried that people are,
hot mic.
Fillings are picking up a radio signal.
He's very funny.
But
he was very
here
funny.
we are, unlikely. And, I haven't been doing anything different those 20 years. But all of a sudden, I'm seeing a room full of people
Where are we going?
who
Go to like
realize
29
that liberty
minutes right
is
there.
not man's idea, it's God's idea.
Here you go,
In your
20 minutes.
hand, but scrolls weren't cheap. And this man had some money, and he bought a scroll, and he's reading the scroll, and he's reading it out loud.
This is
And he comes to Isaiah the prophet, and the Spirit says to Philip, go near and overtake that chariot. I love that statement of the Holy Spirit, because that's how I've come to know how he works. Go near and overtake that chariot of the treasurer of the great empire of the Queen Candace. It's like a motorcade, a presidential motorcade. You've got the lead police and the presidential limousine, and then you got a decoy, and then you got the Secret Service and the aides and the doctors and the control and the support and the counter-assault team, the intelligence team, hazardous material unit, the press, the rear guard, the ambulance, the satellite communications, and the SUV and the press. Oh, and let's just fly that in and drop it off. Oh, well, that's the president. This was a queen. Fine. So as we take a look at her entourage and her travels, let's just take a better look at that. You
So
see
he's
how that
making
works.
the point that
Well, he wasn't with
he
the...
told him to go overtake the chariot so he could meet with this guy who was the treasurer, and he's making the reference that imagine doing that now if God told you to go meet the president, go overtake the motorcade so you can sit down with Trump.
That's what's going on. I mean, right now, everybody listening to this show, you're feeling inside you like this. It's like this calling to go overtake the chariot.
Yep.
If you listen to this show, you love freedom. You love entrepreneurship. I don't know anybody. Steve, have you met anybody that loves wearing a mask?
No.
You know, we interviewed Dr. Jim Meehan on the Thrive Time show. And he pointed out, as well as many other listeners pointed this out, on the OSHA website, folks, on the OSHA website, it says here that it says the human body needs oxygen to breathe. Very shocking.
Mm-hmm.
But it states that if your amount of oxygen in your lungs drops below 19.5 seconds, you will then begin to suffer physiological damages. I'm going to read from the OSHA website. It says, the rulemaking record for the respiratory protection standard clearly justifies adopting the requirement that air breathed by employees must have an oxygen content of at least 19.5%. A lesser concentration of oxygen in employees breathing air could endanger them physiologically and diminish their ability to cope with other hazards that may be present in the workplace.
Yep.
Is that shocking to you?
No. Well, I mean, it's shocking to me that the OSHA has that out, and then yet people still think they need to wear a mask.
So here we go. I have a video. I had a thriver who says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to just watch the world around me crumble under mask mandates. I'm not going to watch businesses shutter and schools shutter because of these mask mandates. I'm going to get out my video camera, and I'm going to test to see, Clay, if you're right. So this guy gets out one of these oxygen. He's up in Canada. Listen to this audio. Powerful audio. Here we go.
I'm Alex from Sperlin Associates, Chartered Professional Accountants. Our mayor's asked us to wear a mask. I just want to do a quick check to see how wearing a mask agrees with the workplace safety requirements to maintain oxygen levels of at least 19.5%. So I have a calibrated MSA gas meter right here, and the reading inside the office is at about 20.8. So now I'm going to put a mask over the sensors, they're right here, just to show that the mask does not create an alarm. So we got a mask, we got this.
You're watching this, Steve. You're seeing it.
Yep.
Now watch when he puts the mask up to his face, how many seconds
Okay,
it
now I'm
takes.
going to bring the meter and the mask close to my mouth again, and we're not going to even get it,
How long does it take his oxygen levels to fall below 19.5% after putting on a mask? Here we go.
close. And we have the sensor facing out, and you should see that there will be an alarm indicating an unsafe oxygen level here. There we go.
Look at that. That was within 10 seconds.
Yep.
Everybody out there listening to this show, you know that wearing a mask is not a task that's healthy for you. It causes irreparable physiological damages. It causes problems. You know that locking down the country might cause businesses to suffer. I mean, if businesses are forced to be shut, it's probably not a good thing.
Right.
It's so stupid. You see CNN, you see CBS, ABC going, it appears as though the economy contracted. Yeah, because you shut it down.
Right.
How do people think it works?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Since locking Steve inside his house, it appears as though he leaves less often. I mean, it's just dumb.
Yeah.
We know that shutting down churches is unconstitutional, but why won't we say anything? Why won't we say anything? I will tell you why. Because if you are out there and your goal is to, if your goal is to not offend anybody, Aristotle said there's only one way to avoid criticism. Do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. Another way to put it would be this. If your goal is to offend nobody, you will become nothing. Folks, if you're tired of sitting on the sidelines of life, watching it quickly pass you by, you must become a person of action. Steve, I want to give you the mic to clarify that, because you clearly don't mind controversy. It doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
Help somebody out there that wants to become more bold. What would you say to him?
I would say get back to your roots, and I would say when you see something that isn't right, say something. It's not that hard, but I understand the fear that people have, and if you say it's not fear, that I don't care what you want to call it, but the fear of backlash. They don't want to say something because they don't want to be attacked, right? Because if you say masks don't help, someone's going to attack you, right? If you say that the coronavirus is is a real thing that's overdone and it's not as dangerous, then people are going to attack you.
If you point out the fact that only if a kid gets coronavirus, only one child per 1 million kids will die from coronavirus. Here comes the attacks.
And this is why I have Matthew 5:10 on my inside arm underneath my website, stevecurrington.com, because it says, blessed are those who are persecuted for their righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And I would just say, if you see something, say something. If something isn't right, if you were walking through a grocery store and someone was raping a child in the aisle, would you be a person that would just go, I don't want to get involved, and walk away and let a 5-year-old or whatever child get raped by an adult? Or would you say something? Well, that's a pretty extreme circumstance, right? And I think most people would say or do something. They would try to stop that action. But there's not much crazier. There's things that are just as crazy that are happening that people are walking by and looking at and ignoring and not saying anything. So I would just say, if you want to be more bold, if you want to or not, doesn't really matter. It's that if you have a moral compass in your head and it tells you that something isn't right, then you need to say something. And that is where I'm at. I can't not say something. It isn't like a choice for me.
It requires more faith to sit this one out and to sit back and say, I'll see what happens, than it does to take action. In my opinion right now. I mean, if you're saying, I'm worried. I think you should be more worried about what happens if you say nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do. I really, do you agree with that statement? Do you agree with that idea?
I think you definitely have a lot to worry about. You know, you're definitely going to have a lot to worry about if you don't.
Have you seen the footage on BBC of China? Have you seen the China concentration camps? Have you seen this?
Mm-mm.
You haven't?
No.
Let me show this to you real quick. This is on the BBC, British Broadcasting, okay? And this is China concentration camp. You haven't seen this, seriously? You haven't seen this?
No.
Okay. I'm going to pull this up. This will blow your mind. Because, listen, folks, we're under attack from the communist Chinese, okay? This whole thing. You look it up. Go to timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com, and watch this. But watch this. This is China's ambassador to the United Kingdom. He's on BBC. This is Steve, this is primetime television. Watch this here. This is primetime television. Here we go. BBC.
Cox Business Security Solutions is the right
down real quick here. But this is on primetime television. And just watch this. Because the Chinese folks, we have 54 scientists that worked for for Tony Fauci's National Institute of Health that just got fired for failing to disclose their connections to the Chinese. 54.
Wow.
According to the FBI, the head of the FBI, Ray, his name is Ray, it's W-R-A-Y. According to the head of the FBI, there's over 5,000 investigations going on right now about Americans who are in government who failed to disclose their connections to the Chinese. I mean, Joe Biden is super connected to the Chinese. His son, Hunter Biden, goes over to China often and is heavily financially tied to the Chinese. Okay, here we go. Check this out.
Let's look at some very disturbing drone footage that's been widely shared around the world. This is almost certainly over northern China,
Are you seeing this
over
face?
Xinjiang. Can you tell us what is happening here?
Watch his face.
I cannot see, this video. This is not the first time you show me. I still remember last year you showed me what is happening in Xinjiang.
In Xinjiang, exactly.
But let me tell you this.
July of this year.
Xinjiang, have you been to Xinjiang yourself?
No, I never have.
You know, Xinjiang is regarded as the most beautiful place in Xinjiang. There's a Chinese saying, you do not know how big China is.
Ambassador, that is not beautiful coverage, however, is it?
You know, Xinjiang, that is exactly what I'm going to tell you. Since 1990, Xinjiang has completely changed because there's thousands of terrorist attacks. People cannot.
That was 10 years ago. Can I ask you why people are kneeling, blindfolded, and shaven, and being led to trains in modern China? Why? What is going on there?
I do not know where you get this videotape. You know, sometimes you have a transfer of prisons and prisoners. You know, in any country.
But just what is happening here, Ambassador?
I do not know. What did you get?
Unbelievable. He says, I don't know.
Yeah. He's staring at people in line getting on trains.
Going to concentration
camps. Like, I don't know what's going on there.
I mean, seriously, Steve, if you look at this, there is all sorts of footage from inside their brainwashing camps, inside their transformation camps.
Қашамайды. Мен ойладым оны да. Біздің еркіндігіміз жоқ болды. Барлық жер камера.
This is video footage inside the concentration camps. This is on BBC. This is not on conspiracytheory.com. This
China
is real
says
stuff.
the camps offer training and education, but they've got razor wire all the way around them.
Unbelievable. Folks, the time to speak out is now. Get all the facts by going to timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com, or you can get there by going to thrivetimeshow.com, thrivetimeshow.com, and then you just click on the COVID chaos button. And on a lighter note, if you're looking to get a mortgage.
Oh, yeah, I do the home loans,
If you're looking for a mortgage, Steve, what's your website?
It's stevecurrington.com.
And do you help people get mortgages from coast to coast in many states?
Everywhere. All of them.
So if somebody's out there listening and they want to get a mortgage, you can help them do it.
Yep.
And how fast can you get people pre-approved?
We do the pre-approval same day. I mean, it's easy. Usually when you submit your application through My Digital Mortgage, you'll get your pre-approval letter on the spot.
Unbelievable. Well, all this.
And rates are ridiculous.
Folks, I'm telling you, if you want to get an unbelievable mortgage experience, and not just a mortgage, if you want to be treated first class, check out stevecurrington.com today, stevecurrington.com today. And if you're out there listening and you want to become a bold person, history favors the bold. You've got to get out there and take action. Don't be on the sidelines of life, folks. If your goal is to offend nobody, you will become nothing. And now, without any further ado, Steve, we'd like to end each and every show with a boom.